Hello naps, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jocelyn. Today in makeup, philosophy, psychology stuff, and other things, we are going to be talking about conflict resolution. And thank you to JT Styles for giving this handy dandy suggestion. Hi JT! Today I'm going to start out with my old favorite, my Mary Kay primer. Get it on that. And then do the thing. Just a little bit goes a long way with every primer. Today in my world of makeup, I think I'm gonna shoot for something kind of neon-y and also a little dark. Because I'm wearing so many bright colors today, why not go kind of in the smoky eye realm? Get out your favorite foundation. I'm using a liquid foundation, Tarte Face Tape. And go ahead and dab that sucker on. And if you want to plop your concealer on as well, you can go ahead and get that working. Boop, boop, I got stuff on my nose. Get my dots in here. I look stunning, I know. Conflict resolution is a really difficult thing to kind of measure because there's so many things you have to take into account to get an effective resolution. There are steps, and we're going to be talking about those, that are outlined to try and make it the best it possibly can be. But when power dynamics start to get into play, that becomes a little less easy because you don't always have control over how the other person's going to react, and there's sometimes a fear that if you push this conflict to get it resolved, that it's just going to end up in negative things. So let's start out with, no, I don't want to do eyes yet. I haven't even set things. I'm going to use my Boi-ing by Benefit Under Eye setting powder. Did you guys see that puff of powder that just came off my face? While I was researching how to resolve conflict, I also started perusing articles that talked about power dynamic because it felt like the ones that were just talking about conflict were missing part of what the problem was in the first place. So I ended up stumbling upon alternativeresolutions.net. It's got sources and stuff. They actually cite their sources, which I thought was cool. And they had a whole article on how the different types of power structures and the different types of power that you have over people. It's all really interesting, but I'm not really going to get into power dynamics itself as a concept today in this video, but if you'd like to see me do that, go ahead and drop it down in the comments and let me know. But along with that, they also talked about the fact that how a person uses their power is just as important as having the power to begin with. I'm going to use my Hoola bronzing powder by Benefit. So if a person has structural power over you, that structural power being where an institution is giving them power, so a teacher or a police officer or a boss, they can have that power and they can use it to be helpful and good, or they can have that power and they can use it to further their own stuff and not really follow their job responsibilities very well. I'm going to go back to that blush that I keep saying is Strawberry Cream, but I'm not sure it is, by Mary Kay. It's kind of this muted blush. Oh, there is a little shimmer in this. And so they also discussed the ways that power is used to create conflict. And they identified 3 different types of power usage. Some could say that it's like persuasion techniques almost. One is it's used persuasively, which is when they appeal to values or beliefs. So this is when your mom comes in and is like, hey, can you do the dishes? We all help out around here. It's really good for everyone to help out. The next method, while I start getting my James Charles eyeshadow palette and using the black. Oh, poo, I have it here. I have my freaking eye primer. Okay, starting over, I got this. I'm gonna use my Anastasia Beverly Hills eye primer to prime my lid this time, while I talk about the second power usage method. I probably should have used a bigger brush, which is utilitarian. Now, utilitarian sounds like it would be oh, public good, but that's kind of the first one, right? So utilitarian is actually the reward system. Interesting that they named it that. Every field though is I'm gonna use this word in my own way. Nobody's ever used this word before. And then you have like 17 definitions to the same word. People wonder why they get confused when other people talk. So utilitarian is actually rewards-based. What does that mean? It means like if you're a kid and you have to do your chores, the utilitarian argument would be if you do this chore, you get $20 to go watch a movie. So it's like in exchange for this, you get a reward. And then now that I have this on, feels primed and stuff, now I'm gonna go in with black and be much more careful about expanding too far. Which brings us to our last power usage. So this one is one that seems to me to bring the most tension in general when used, and that is coercion. In this context, it's simply referring to like punishment based. So if you do not do this thing, then you will receive a punishment. So if you do not do the dishes, you will not be able to use the car. If you do not do the dishes, you will be grounded, stuff like that. And I don't know about you, but I can think of instances where I have seen multiple of these power tools used before. Some are more effective than others in certain situations. And usually if you're using multiple, it's because like one of them has failed. And in theory, coercion would be like what I would think of as like a last resort. Like I would not want to just start out with being like, if you don't do this, something bad is gonna happen. But there are people who do that. Specifically, if I think of like mob bosses in TV shows, they do that. I should note that I've like never succeeded at doing the Smokey eye. I've seen tutorials, I've tried it. Usually I just end up looking like a black eye, but I think that's because of blending and like your in-between shade, your like transition shade. Blend it out, but we're gonna try. I'm gonna just really soften up this edge with a clean brush. That way I don't put any more color down, and hopefully it just makes it significantly less harsh. Ooh, it's already kind of working. Oh yeah, okay, maybe this would work. Maybe this will be okay. I'm not hating it right now. So once you take into consideration the different ways in which power can be used, then you can see how conflict would occur. Conflict is really when like people have differing opinions on something, and usually it gets executed in a way that makes one or both of the parties unhappy. The point of this is not finger pointing as to who is right or wrong in the instance. It is just addressing that conflict exists, and there are types of conflict, yeah? Which brings us to types of conflict, or conflict management. Again, when I was looking up just straight up ways to help heal conflict, I kept seeing a lot of just like one size fits all approach, 5 steps and you're done. But like I said, that didn't really take into effect the power dynamic, and it also didn't take into effect the different ways that people approach conflict. So let's party. I'm gonna smoke this out and try and fix this up with this shade right here. Names of all the colors will be down into the descriptions, as well as links to all the resources that I use to research. So go check that out if you want to know more, or if you want to follow along to this tutorial. Let's take that in there and just kind of soften even more, because I don't want to look like a raccoon. So like I was saying, there are the different ways that people deal with conflict, right? If it was just like everybody was sitting down and chatting about it and really getting to the heart of it, there wouldn't really be problems, and we wouldn't have difficulty with resolving conflict. That is the collaboration kind of conflict management strategy that people use. So conflict management strategy is how people take that conflict, how people use that conflict. The first, and this is based off of the Thomas Kilmann model. Go ahead and Wikipedia it if you want more. There's lots of fun graphics. This fade, it's very smoky right now. I'm gonna try and keep it. We'll see. The first conflict management is competing. This is the person in the group who's like, no, I'm right, you're completely wrong, and in this instance, I'm standing up for what I believe in because you're just wrong. It's really hard to talk to these people when an issue comes up because they don't want to hear your side. Sometimes you are that person, sometimes the other side is that person. Either way, it sucks being in a conflict with somebody who has that type of conflict management. I think I'm gonna pack a little bit more black on the lower part of this lid, really try and darken it up. Gonna pop some like real bright stuff in the inner corner. Do I actually use my Aurora Lights palette for its intended purpose? I think today is the day. So I'm gonna go in with like a bright pink liquid liner and kind of do some fun little things with it. So I think I'm going to use shade Fluorescent in my inner corner. It's this in between. It's almost got like a slightly orangish hint to it compared to Magical. So I'm gonna use Fluorescent in here. So our second one for our conflict management is accommodating. This is the person who doesn't want to deal with conflict but isn't exactly running away from it, so they just yield. This is fine in some instances when done on small basis, when done for things that like aren't super important to who the person is. When you're constantly yielding specifically to the same party over and over again, it can create a lot of resentment. It doesn't really solve anything either, it just perpetuates the other person's opinion. Yet, we see this a lot, people yielding, when we know that the other person in the argument is trying to compete with their point, right? I think I need to even brighten it up even more in here with like a white or something. I think I'm gonna use Flashing from the Aurora Lights palette. Really get it in there. I'm gonna go and kind of take this pink out a little bit more. I'm gonna try and blend it with the black a little bit so it's not kind of like such a harsh spot. So type 3 is collaborating. We already talked about collaborating. It's where both parties sit down, really hash out what the root of that problem is, and then move past the initial conflict, right? And then there is the one that everyone thinks of for some reason when they think of conflict resolution, which is compromising. Compromising is not the best solution. Compromising actually doesn't even really deal with the core root of the problem. It's making both parties less mad, but it's more of a stalling tactic since you're not getting to the root of the issue and you're just kind of meeting in the middle, basically lowering both of your standards for acceptance along the way. Yet everyone is like, oh yeah, you guys just gotta compromise, but like, there are other options. Collaboration is another option. And then the last one, which we all have that friend who does, avoiding. Yo, the bitty brush, gonna go in with black and try and do the same thing I did to the top on the bottom. So avoiding is exactly what it sounds like. It's where we're like, conflict? I don't understand. There's no conflict. None at all. Ever. Everything is fine, and you know it's not fine. If you're blending on top, you should also blend on the bottom. Oh, that was a mistake. I am mistake. Okay. So when we take into account all those different conflict managements and the power dynamic, and seem like conflict resolution is an impossible feat. But I promise you, 'tis not. Sometimes you just need a third-party bystander. I'm gonna use my Anastasia Beverly Hills Dip Brow Pomade in Ebony. If you don't have a mediator to kind of help you walk through things, here are the important things that you can do to help mediate your own conflict. And just so you know, I am not a professional. I don't really know what I'm talking about. Don't take this as fact, as life, as the only way to do stuff. This is stuff that I found on the internet that seemed reputable. But that doesn't mean it's the only way, or that it's the best way. Continuing on, there are 5 key steps in conflict management. The first one is define your source. Going through, figuring out what the trigger was. Where did the conflict begin? What was the conflict about actually? Sometimes conflict boils under the surface for a long time before it actually emerges, and it emerges in something really stupid, like somebody not using the coffee pot correctly or not washing a mug. And it's not really just that instance that's causing so much conflict, but it might be repeated instances of disrespect. So once you have identified your source and not given yourself a really long eyebrow hair, and they are also not related, why is this one so much less archy? Is you want to look beyond the incident. Sometimes what you're angry about and what you seem to be upset about, leaving that mug there, is not like what actually started everything. It could be snide remarks, it could be other things, but it's not always what the actual last straw was. You know, sometimes it's the first straw that really needs to get resolved in order for the conflict to be managed properly. I'm gonna use my Milani The Tank eyeliner in 110 black. And I'm gonna wing it while we talk about requesting solutions. It is all good and dandy to talk about what the problem was, get it out there, really identify what made you mad. But without being able to like come up with something that a person can do differently or a solution that can make it better, why are you talking about it? Like if you want to resolve it, you have to come up with solutions. So in the requesting solutions, the key thing to remember is this is not about finger pointing. This is the NYX Vivid Brights in Vivid Petal. I should not be doing this while talking. Get out my Milani eyeliner and touch this up. So requesting solutions is a little bit different than this next step. So requesting solutions is like, here's my whole list of stuff that could happen that could make it better. This includes things that like another thing might cover. So if somebody drank all of your coffee, you could say you give me money for more coffee or you get me more coffee. Those are two solutions that technically fulfill the same thing. You don't need to do both to do them, but you identify all of the potential solutions. Then you identify ones that both parties are okay with doing, are okay with trying. Once you get to that part of the list, it should be about finding a way to move forward. This isn't like, okay, you do this and then I'll think about forgiving you. This is about actually doing the thing and then moving forward with it. So forgiving or moving beyond it and not harping on it, not like cycling back on it, which is tricky, but a true solution should not make it too problematic. It should fix things rather than adding to the problem. And then the very last step is agreement. And this is hard because it means you're committing to forgiving or you're committing to moving on. And sometimes you want to be petty, sometimes you don't want to move on, and sometimes you feel like you've been hurt so bad that like nothing can really help you move on. But why are you going through the steps of conflict management if you're not willing to do that? I'm gonna go ahead and touch up this black line so that my pink line doesn't look quite as messy and then we'll have a little bit more fun. Okay, I did my pink, I added some dots, I cleaned up the lines a little bit, and I'm going into my under eye waterline with this NYX Professional Makeup Slide On, Glide On, Stay On, Definitely Turn On Waterproof Extreme Shine Eyeliner in Glitzy Gold. Cute, okay. I'm gonna get a little bit of my Wet n Wild like kohl eyeliner in Baby's Got Black and just kind of do my lash line. There we go. I didn't do too much on it. I just wanted to like darken it up a smidge. And then I'm going to use my Roller Lash by Benefit because I'm not forgetting mascara this time. I'm not doing it. Okay, so mascara's done. Good on that. I'm gonna go in with a little bit of Kaleidoscope from the Aurora Lights Beauty Palette again in that nice soft pink shade. I think I'm gonna do my Melted Matte Too Faced Liquefied Matte Longwear Lipstick in Child Star because it seems to be a nice like pinky nude. After it dries, I'm gonna go in with LA Colors Holographic Iridescent Lip Gloss in Gold Rush, just for a little sparkle and shine. You know, do you guys think this was helpful though? Could you see using this in a conflict situation to kind of resolve stuff? Have you used these steps before? Has it made a difference? Okay, here we are. Let's turn towards the light a little so you can see better. So where do you guys stand with all of this? Do you think that these are good, helpful steps to take? Do you think that they need some work? Do you have a better solution? Drop it down in the comments to help a person out. All right, I hope to see you guys here next week. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it. Click the subscribe button if you want to see me do more of these type of deep dives into psychology, sociology, blah, 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 stuff like that with makeup looks. Drop a comment if there's a particular makeup style you want me to try or if there's a topic you want me to cover. I hope to see you here next Thursday, and don't forget to ding notifications to be alerted when I actually do post. All right, have a wonderful day, Naps. Keep being a fantastic you, and I will see you next week. Bye.